Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and in today's video we're going to be delving into some Chinese light tank gameplay. First replay here is courtesy of ICU LOL, that name, driving his Type 64. Type 64 of course is the tier 6 premium light tank for the Chinese, mentioned Chinese of course. Just before we kick off, a couple of things to note about this game. Firstly, IC is using the Chinese food consumable, the improved rations or something. Improved combat rations. So that gives 10% buff to all his crew members, so that's going to boost his tank's performance in pretty much every department. Secondly, he is using binocular telescopes here, so if he does any stationary stuff, he's going to be able to shoot people. When I say stationary stuff, I mean if he is stationary for a little while, he's going to get a boosted view range. That's a better way of phrasing what I was saying. And last but by no means least, this is actually quite favourable matchmaking for the Type 64. Type 64, as I mentioned, is a light tank, and as such, it gets effectively match made as if it's one tier higher than it is. So, a tier 6 light tank sees tier 7 to 9 games, rather than tier 6 to 8, as would be the case for a regular tank of the tier. So, IC so far has managed to spot a couple of people. Chinu Kai over there, he's taking a few shots at range with this gun, but you do have to be careful doing this because, firstly, this is basically the American 76mm gun that you get on machines such as the Sherman, the Hellcat. You know, lots of tanks have access to this weapon, or a weapon very similar to it. Ooh, can he finish off that Hellcat? Not quite, but he can get the SU-100. So it's not very accurate, and you get a very fast rate of fire, meaning that you can burn through your ammunition very quickly, and a lot of ammunition this tank does not get. If memory serves, the Type 64 holds something like 35 rounds in total, which with a gun of this caliber is not very much, you know, especially considering it can see tier 9 games. If you imagine you're in a tier 9 game and each of your shots does 115 damage, even assuming it penetrates, you can imagine having to burn through an awful lot of ammunition in order to scratch some of those bigger tanks that you might face. So that is a problem with taking all these shots at this sort of range. And that one actually bounces off the VK, lucky boy. One more shot should finish this VK off. There we go, there's kill number 3 in case you hadn't been paying attention. But IC is down to 7 rounds of armor-piercing ammo. But now he's going on the hunt. The scoreline is 6-4, so IC's team are winning reasonably comfortably. Well, I say reasonably comfortably, there's 2 kills in it. You know, they're winning. Let's leave the comfortably out of it, I guess. GW Panther, there's one shot. The guy seems to be hanging around. Oh, it looks like actually IC might have tracked him. And there's the kill for kill number 4. Scoreline is 7-6, as IC's team seems determined to wilt around him while he's killing things, although the friendly Chi-Ri did just pick up a kill himself. So the Type 64 is, I've put up other videos about the tank. It's an awful lot of fun. For those people who are interested in light tanks, and especially if you've got a Chinese light tank crew anyway, I do strongly recommend this machine. It's fast. The gun is, if not fantastic, alright. It looks like IC doesn't have Sixth Sense, by the way, as his Sixth Sense did not go off and he was pretty clearly spotted. Anyway, yeah, it's fast, the gun's good enough, it's a premium tank so it makes a good amount of money. The only real downside to it, if we're going to be honest, I guess you've got the limited ammunition supply, but the main downside to it is that it's huge, really. And that was a bounce. So IC is now onto his APCR ammo, by the way. Ooh, nice fire. Not because he needs APCR against these targets, but because he's run out of his other ammunition. One more shot to finish off this KV-1S, and there we go. And he's down to 5 rounds of APCR and 2 rounds of high explosive. And actually, the ammunition count is the reason that I don't load any HE on my Type 64. Because, come on IC, careful with your shot. You can probably get him one more before he shoots you. Ah, no, he didn't aim it properly and it bounced. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I don't load any high explosive. It's one of the few tanks I don't load any HE on because, well, with tier 7 to 9 matchmaking, 76mm HE ammo isn't the best, and you have such a limited ammo count. I'd rather just take more armor piercing and try and penetrate my shots against more targets. The HE rounds are so situational that, and not that good on this tank, I don't really bother. There's the Hellcat from earlier on, there goes the Hellcat from earlier on. Kill number 6 as Icy secures his Top Gun. Just leaves an IS, T-29 and a Gorilla. Speaking of the Gorilla, there he is. Icy has switched to high explosive ammo, one shot, second gets the kill, and Icy is down to his last round of ammunition, which is a round of APCR. Now the IS has gone down, that just leaves this T-29. Now we need to be a little bit careful here. The T-29 is a very, very dangerous opponent. Even though he is outnumbered 6-1, the T-29 is one of those tanks that can wreck teams. It is a brutal, brutal machine. Icy spotted him though, and he's getting shot up by Icy's allies. But especially on Sand River, the T-29, as I say, is just so dangerous. Sand River with all those undulations give the T-29 plenty of opportunity to use his gun depression. Now, Icy takes a shot there, but he's not poking up to take a shot himself really because, well, with one round of ammunition, it wouldn't be the best use of his time and it would expose him to fire. And because, as I said, the Type 64 is a relatively large machine, actually hiding the tank behind this sand dune is not completely trivial. Type 58 here looks like he's going for side shots into the T-29 and indeed manages to put a round in. Artillery's having a go, but he misses. Oh, that might have actually been a shot from artillery, and Icy is able to pop out from behind that sand dune and finish the T-29 off with the last round of ammunition that he had. So let's go and have a look at the post-battle stats. So as we can see there, that was enough for an ace tanker, perhaps unsurprisingly for Icy there. Spotter, Bruiser, Fire for Effect, High Caliber, Top Gun, Radley Walters medal for those 8 kills, and a Fade-Ins medal for destroying the last enemy vehicle in the battle with the last shell remaining in the player's tank. So nicely done at the end there. 3,501 damage done, 8 kills, 1,869 base experience, easily outstripping anyone else on either team, regardless of what sort of metric you decide to use. It seems the tank actually carries 45 shells, not 35, my apologies, but all 45 of his shells were fired. For that damage count, most of it from relatively long range, 1,100 assistance damage into the bargain, and Icy didn't make a huge amount of profit there, even though it was a premium account, because he was using those premium consumables, the food consumable. If it were me, I'd have bought those on discount before using them, but there we go. And he fired all his APCR ammo because he, well, fired all of his ammo. So there we go. Nonetheless, a very nice result from ICU lol there in his Type 64. So let's move on to another game. Well, here we go with the second game, as I mentioned, continuing with the Chinese light tank theme. This is the Tier 7 Chinese light tank, the WZ-131, being driven for us today by Pizarro. Now, in contrast to the previous game, where the matchmaking and the map were pretty good for a light tank, this is kind of not quite the case. The matchmaking is not terrible, Tier 7 light tank, so it sees Tier 8 to 10 games. This is a Tier 9 game. So this is very much middle of the road matchmaking for the WZ. So that's not great, but not terrible. The map, however, is pretty dire. This is Mountain Pass, which is generally speaking not a very good light tank map. There used to be loads of bushes arrayed either side of the sort of crevasse thing in the middle. But over the years, Wargaming has removed more and more of these, giving light tanks fewer and fewer positions to effectively use. Having said that, Pizarro is able to pick up a cheeky kill on an Su-152, and these guys haven't spotted him, which is kind of amusing. There's the IS-3's, let's say, impressive armor profile for you. So the WZ-131 actually gets a choice of 2 different guns. There's a 100mm gun and an 85. Essentially, with the 100mm, you get higher alpha damage and penetration. With the 85, you get higher rate of fire and better gun handling. When I played this tank, and I need to rebuy this at some point to get the ace, but when I played this tank, I used the 85mm gun that Pizarro is using. I just found it more comfortable, but your mileage may differ. So, Pizarro has managed to get into this location. He spotted all these guys, and if we actually have a look here, Pizarro has 2 marks of excellence on his gun barrel, so he clearly knows what he's doing in the WZ-131. I'm not going to say he clearly likes it, because I have tanks in which I have 2 marks of excellence that I don't actually like. The IS and the T-37 both spring to mind. Pizarro sees that his teammate is in trouble from this WZ AMX 1390, and so Pizarro comes to the guy's rescue. Now, the AMX is a dangerous opponent with that 90mm autoloader, but the AMX here is distracted, and even if he weren't, Pizarro knows that the guy has already fired some of his shots. So there is opportunity here for Pizarro to go and do some work, and indeed he does, and picks up his 2nd kill on the fellow. So why do I say that Mountain Pass is a pretty poor map for light tanks? Well, basically it's one of those maps that funnels both teams down into a series of choke points, corridors, and that is not where light tanks like to be. They like to be able to flank people and generally be a bit cheeky, something that is quite difficult to do on this map. Now, that was a kind of poor shot against the M103 from Pizarro. He had a shot into the side of the M103's turret, that was a likely penetration, but he hesitated, trying to go for the T30, is it? T30. And as it was, the shot was no longer available. So a little bit of a mistake there, but I don't want to be too harsh on him for that. It's an easy thing to do, and only a very small error. Sometimes these little errors can stack up and give you problems later on, but nonetheless, in and of itself, only a small error. T54 Mod 1 here looks like it's being a little bit of a nuisance, but maybe he's bitten off more than he can chew. He's going for this Jagdtiger 88. He's got on around the side, but WZ-120 executes him. And indeed, it looks like he had been a little optimistic. Now, there is actually an IS back there. Hopefully he doesn't have a shot on Pizarro. There was a shot land nearby Pizarro's tank. We don't know if that was an ally or not. Pizarro does have a shot on this Jagdtiger, but this is not a penetration. That is just a shot straight into the superstructure. Superstructure of a Jagdtiger is 250mm thick, plus a bit of sloping. Even with premium ammo, Pizarro only gets 230 average millimeters of penetration, so that's just not going to pen. With regular rounds with this gun, he gets about 159mm of penetration. So going for this Jagdtiger here, but the terrain is being slightly problematic. WZ is going for it as well. So hopefully together the two of them can take this Jagdtiger down, being a tank destroyer of course. The Jagdtiger cannot fire behind it, so with 2 guys going after him, someone, probably Pizarro here, can get up the guy's wazoo. In fact, as it turns out, both guys can get behind him or to his sides, and this Jagdtiger is whole cans of screwed. And this is one of the things about driving tank destroyers, you know, the main weakness of them. Jagdtiger is doing his best to bring his gun to bear, but it's just not working, and with any luck Pizarro will be able to pick up the kill on this guy. There we go. Kill numero 3 for Pizarro. Who have we got left? There's a couple of artillery there, both Tier 9 French Batchats. Of course, that's the Tier 9, not the Tier 10 French artillery piece, so that's the one without the autoloader. Also got a T30, another Jagdtiger, and an M103. Pizarro loads up the first of his heat rounds to try and do something about the opposition. I think he's probably expecting to meet the T30 or a Jagdtiger or someone, not his artillery, because I don't think he'd waste his heat ammunition against artillery given the choice. As it is, he hasn't actually switched back, so whatever. That shot misses, and now he switches back to his armor-piercing rounds. You could argue about HE here, especially as with 200 alpha damage, this gun will not reliably two-shot one of these artillery pieces. And in fact, he actually bounces that second shot. It might have been a critical hit instead of an actual bounce, but there we go. Either way, there's kill number 4, as Pizarro nails the other Batchat. M103 is in the friendly base. Jagdtiger, we don't know exactly where he is. He's probably either gone back to defend his own base, or he's trundling up behind the M103. And there's also that T30 over there as well. In fact, there's the Jagdtiger. So all of the enemy team are currently sitting in the friendly base. Now, the friendly team is also capturing the enemy base, This is a bit of a close run thing, but with Pizarro coming up the rear, hopefully he can shift the balance of power in his team's favour. So M103 and Jagdtiger remain, and who's got the base capture points? Not the M103. The M103's already taken a bit of a pasting, and there's another shot into the hull. Someone flubs their shot. The friendly team is still capturing the enemy base, which is a little bit of a shame, because at this stage, they really don't need to. There's the M103 kill. And let's just see if Pizarro... Nope. I was going to see if Pizarro could get in one more shot before the game ended, but apparently not. So a bit of a shame there. Pizarro could have farmed some damage and possibly even picked up another kill on the Jagdtiger, being the last remaining tank on the enemy team. I understand why the friendly tanks went for the cap in the first place. It made sense. And they, of course, can't see exactly the combat situation up in this corner. So it's not the fault of the WZ-120 and the Jagdtiger. You know, people shouldn't be angry at them for having capped the base. They don't know exactly what's going on the map. And if the Jagdtiger had been in a very strong position, that could have been a messy, messy situation. So it was a safe call and a reasonable call. But, of course, from Pizarro's perspective, just a bit of a shame that he couldn't get any more damage. Anyway, all that being said, let's go and have a look at the results for this one. So that netted Pizarro Ace, Tanker, Spotter, Bruiser, Fighter, Fire for Effect, High Caliber, and the Patrol Duty Medal, which is very nice indeed. Pizarro managed to pick up 3,987 damage, 5 kills, and over 2,000 base experience, which is a lot however you look at it. Even in terms of just damage, almost 4,000 damage. That would be very respectable in a tier 9 tank in that game. And as it is, none of the tier 9 tanks on either team actually managed that damage count. The WZ managed 2,500 and the T30 managed just shy of 3,000, but Pizarro had more than another 1,000 damage on a T30, which is a tier 9 tank destroyer. So very, very well done to Pizarro there in his WZ-131. 31 shots fired, 28 hits, 22 pens for that damage count, most of which was from relatively close range. 8 enemy tanks spotted, only a tank or two shy of the scout medal. 10 damaged, 5 destroyed, over 3,000 assistance damage, which is where that massive base XP score comes from, that combined with his regular damage and the few kills. 15 base defense points, no base capture points, travelled over 2 kilometers, and a 47,000 credit profit into the bargain, even making a 22,000 credit profit with a standard account if he had been running that. So all told, really nice game there on a map that does not suit light tanks very well at all from Pizarro. So I hope you guys enjoyed that pair of games in Chinese light tanks. If you did, by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.